Let's go head-to-head on this, shall we? In the red corner, we have Tanya back on deck, Plibersek. In the blue corner, Simon, the man with the plan, Birmingham! Sorry, guys, that was silly of me. I apologise. I don't know why I did that. Let's start with something serious, and that is the housing announcement, which seems to be something that's unifying both parties unusually, but doesn't seem to put you on the same side as economists, because they seem to be saying it will make housing more expensive. Why are you doing something economists seem to think is a bad idea? Simon, I'll start with you.
Well, Waleed, this is an extension of a policy that we took to the last election and we've delivered on. And the fundamental part of this policy is that rather than first homeowners having to save a 20% deposit and try to save that deposit while they're also paying rent and all the extra costs, we're helping people get in at a 5% deposit or even lower if you're a single parent. And so it really is just about making sure people are able to make that transition from paying rent to paying off their home faster. You still have to get all the same approvals from the bank. You still have to be able to afford to pay it off, but it ensures you're not having to live longer through that really double challenging period of paying rent while saving for the deposit. It's a policy that's worked, helped tens of thousands of people already, and which we can see now is being extended to help even more into the future.
Simon, has it worked? I mean, if the problem is housing affordability, there is no sign that those houses, particularly in that bracket, are coming down. You talk about people being able to get in earlier, but that just means them taking on a much bigger debt that they'll be saddled with for a longer period of time. You heard Saul Eslake there say that really what we've learned over 60 years of history is that it just makes the houses more expensive. It doesn't change who actually gets into the market. So who has this helped that wouldn't otherwise have been able to get in the market?
Well, our policies have helped around 300,000 first homeowners into the market. This policy itself has helped tens of thousands. And as I say, it's not a policy that changes what people bid for houses or the value of houses. It's a policy that simply focuses on the fact that the deposit has acted as a barrier. And so Scott Morrison announced this in the last election campaign 3 years ago. We've delivered on it. We've seen that it is making life easier for first homeowners to not have to wait the years it can take to get a 20% deposit while you're also having to pay rent, but instead to get in there as long as the bank says your income, your management of your finances means that you can afford this loan, then we can save you that double hit of rent plus deposit saving at the same time, and instead actually get you into a situation where a strong economy means we're able to help you own your own home faster with a program like this designed to ensure that you can start paying off your home much sooner than would otherwise be the case.
Tanya, if your party is broadly supportive of this initiative, does that mean you concede that the government has taken effective action on housing affordability in its last term of government?
Well, I wouldn't concede that at all. It's harder to rent a place, it's harder to buy a place, and we've got more homeless Australians than ever before. So while we support this measure, we don't say that this on its own is enough. We actually have a $10 billion housing future fund, which would see 30,000 additional social and affordable housing homes built, including at least 4,000 set aside for women and children escaping domestic violence, including thousands set aside for older women, veterans. We know that veterans and older women are two of the fastest growing groups of people moving into homelessness. So, of course, we welcome the government doing what we've been calling on them to do with this program. But like a lot of what Scott Morrison does, it's too little too late. This is one measure when we need to be doing so much more to genuinely tackle housing affordability in Australia. And of course, we know that interest rates are about to go up. So not only are rents really tough and getting tougher, but we know that mortgages are about to get harder to pay off as well. And that goes along with a lot of the cost of living pressures that we see on Australian families, where everything's going up except for people's wages.
Simon, back over to you. There's a lot of talk today about the coalition cutting funding to Medicare if it gets back into office. Is Medicare safe from cuts?
Absolutely and completely. And these are just pathetic scare campaigns from the Labor Party, whose own health policy that Anthony Albanese released last week has fallen apart at the seams, been criticised by the AMA as not working, and of course he's had to admit that he hadn't actually had it costed in the way he'd said publicly that he had. Our commitment to Medicare is absolute. We've legislated that commitment. We've seen it grow in funding from around $19 billion when we were elected to around $31 billion. And our commitment outlined in the budget we handed down just a few weeks ago is to see that investment in Medicare keep growing out to around $35 billion into the future.
Tanya, that seems pretty definitive. Why are Labor implying otherwise?
Well, just this morning, Scott Morrison's hand-picked health minister refused 3 times to rule out cuts to Medicare. She is on the record saying that Medicare is unaffordable. And let's be frank about this. The Liberal Party have a 40-year history of trashing Medicare. When Labor first introduced Medibank, they privatised it. We had to introduce Medicare. They've tried to introduce co-payments, put up the costs of medicines. It's more expensive now. The GP co-payments are higher than ever. A 33% increase under this government. Specialist co-payments have gone up by 52%. I mean, it's not Medicare we can't afford. It's an American-style health system that the Liberals want to introduce. That's what Australia can't afford.
Simon, you look urgently like you want to respond. Do you want to have a go?
Well, what absolute rot. I mean, Australians have been living with the Morrison government investing ever-increasing sums in Medicare. Bulk billing rates under us have gone from 82% when we were elected to 88% now. In the last couple of years, we've introduced the biggest reform to Medicare and medical services with your GP in terms of telehealth services now being supported under Medicare as well. So the scope, the reach, the funding, the access to Medicare has only grown while we've been in office, and it's our commitment to continue to invest. But to invest, you've got to have a strong enough economy to keep funding those services.
Tanya, boos at Bluesfest and a shocker for Albanese in the polls. How's it all gone so wrong in just a week?
Well, you know, the polls will bounce up and down. We're not paying attention to that. And there was a lot of love for Anthony at Bluesfest as well. But truly, this sort of day-to-day stuff is not really what this election campaign is about. What this election campaign is about is the fact that everything's going up except for your wages. Childcare's gone up, petrol's gone up, groceries have gone up, rents have gone up, mortgages are about to go up. We know that the cost of living is skyrocketing and wages just aren't keeping pace. And this election campaign is about Labor having a plan to make sure people have secure jobs. When they work hard, they get a pay rise, and we see permanent relief from cost of living pressures like cheaper childcare, cheaper household power bills. That's what will make a difference to people's lives. People know that life's got harder under Scott Morrison, and we want to take some of that pressure off. That's what this campaign's about.
Tanya, this is stand-up comedian and internationally sought-after hand model Dave Thornton here. And I saw Albo and saw the footage of him down at Bluesfest, and I've spent a fair chunk of my career down at festivals just trying to get free tickets and performing on band stages, and it has split the crowd any time I perform. And I did notice there were some boos in. I don't know how many people were doing it. I don't suppose Albo wants some tips from a stand-up comedian like me, just when you go on stage like that. I'd just recommend start working the crowd, if you can do that. Just ask people, what do you do for a living? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's great. Also, if he finishes out his set, just say, you've been a great crowd if you like me. I've been Anthony Albanese. If you didn't, I've been Scott Morrison. Good night. And
I think he'd probably like some of those hand modelling tips as well. I mean, that sounds like a really, nice sideline.
It pays for the kids' daycare. What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Well, now that we've helped you with your financial problem that we uncovered in the last segment, that's very good. I'm glad we did that.
It's all come full circle.
Tanya, Simon, thank you very much for joining us for week 2. All the best with the rest of the campaign.
It's a great pleasure.
Thanks, Waleed. Thanks, guys.